Medicaid Spend Down, The Do's and Don'ts, an article by Emilee Brown. As we age, we may find ourselves needing more help than we once did, which may affect our ability to live independently in our own home. If you or a loved one have found yourself thinking, I need more help, you may also be thinking, but where do I start? For some, starting the senior living journey may be a daunting task because there are so many options to be considered. One of the most daunting things to consider is how to pay for it. According to long-term care financial company Genworth, the average cost of assisted living in Washington state is $6,000 a month. Therefore, if you're thinking about long-term care options, I would first recommend looking at your assets and income and concluding what you could comfortably afford and for how long. Speaking to a financial advisor may be beneficial. Once a potential resident has reviewed their assets and how long they may be able to afford long-term care, it is time to start touring communities and begin a fact-finding mission. This will result in a lot of information, so staying organized is important. Many folks ask me, does your community accept Medicaid or other types of insurance? If you have a long-term care policy, it is important to be familiar with your plan's wait periods and policy details as policy coverage and restrictions differ. However, most communities will accept long-term care insurance. Medicaid questions tend to be tougher. What is Medicaid and how does it correspond to long-term care? Medicaid is a government health insurance program that supplements long-term care services for people who have limited income. It is one of the most significant policies for improving and keeping older adults healthy. Medicaid allows people who need care to get it regardless of their financial background. However, a community needs to have a Medicaid license, and few communities have one. Some licensed assisted living, memory care communities, or adult family homes may accept Medicaid or have a Medicaid spend down. However, communities that accept a Medicaid spend down are rare, with communities that accept direct Medicaid being extremely rare. This is why it is extremely important to do your research, ask a lot of questions, and stay diligent when it comes to your finances. A very common misconception I find when working with families that need a direct Medicaid opening is that they believe most communities accept Medicaid when it is unfortunately the exact opposite. If you're worried about your assets eventually depleting, you will need to narrow your search to a community with a Medicaid spend down. A Medicaid spend down is a community guaranteeing that when you run out of money, you can continue to live there when you need to convert over to Medicaid. If you find yourself touring communities and you need a Medicaid spend down, you should always ask, how many Medicaid beds are you licensed for? Because although a community may say they have a spend down, they may only be licensed to have 5 Medicaid residents at any given time. Therefore, if you need to convert to Medicaid and you have completed the required spend down, but there's not an opening for a Medicaid resident at the time, you would still be required to move. I was working with a family at one of our memory care communities whose family member was at another local memory care. The family had been paying $14,000 a month for 2 years. When they alerted the executive director that they were ready to convert to Medicaid, she responded that they did not have any open Medicaid spots and their family member would either be required to move, continue to pay $14,000 a month until they had an opening, or move to one of their sister communities 20 miles away from all of her family. Unfortunately, the community had not been upfront with the family about the amount of Medicaid units they had, and the family was not educated on what questions to ask. We were able to help the family and allowed a short spend down to Medicaid because the company I work with has the largest Medicaid license in the state. Therefore, when your assets are limited and you're looking for senior living, good questions to ask are, How many Medicaid apartments are you licensed for? How many folks do you currently have waiting to convert to Medicaid? And what happens if I reach my spend down requirement and there are no Medicaid openings? This will keep you from being misled and having to move after depleting your funds, as well as allowing you to find the community that best meets your needs in all areas. One of the biggest misconceptions is that if you have any sort of income, you do not qualify for Medicaid. The truth is that if the care that you pay for is above your monthly income, you still qualify for Medicaid as long as you have no other monetary assets. But you need to do your homework. The last question you might be asking is, well, how do I actually get on Medicaid once I have reached that point? Well, there are several different ways to apply for Medicaid. One option is to go to your local DSHS office, and one of their employees can help walk you through the application and tell you what to expect. You may also fill out the application online. The DHS website has the option to complete the application online. However, it is a lengthy process. If completed and you or your loved one are still living in your private home, a financial caseworker will then reach out to you or your power of attorney for bank statements and proof of income. When you are financially cleared, DSHS will schedule an in-person assessment to review your care needs. Medicaid Spend Down Explained. To qualify for Medicaid, there are a number of eligibility requirements that must be met. Heading the list is a person or couple's combined monthly income. If your income is too high, it doesn't mean that you won't qualify. To meet that requirement, you can start to spend money to cover certain costs, including housing or medical costs. An attorney can help you determine the best way to implement a monthly spend down. And that concludes our article.